All right. Today we're going to talk a lot about labs and your lab work because I know there's a lot of pieces coming up with the world with lab work, and not just lab work, but also things like HRT, peptides, and peptides even including like GLP-1s are all the rage. So we're going to chat through a lot of pieces with lab work. One, hopefully by the end of this, there might be some beefier parts that like I'm gonna share with you that you don't necessarily need to like stick in your back pocket. But our goal is understanding like the importance of blood work, why we might want it, and also why sometimes your lab work might come back normal and yet you are like, I'm not feeling normal. I still have symptoms. I have things that are popping up. Why? Right? So we're going to dive in. Um, and then at the end, I will share a document that has like what I would personally ask your doctor for a complete full lab work versus like little bits and pieces. So let's do it. So I want you to think through any of these pieces and think about like, is your body truly thriving, right? A lot of times, I think as women and even as just high performing women, we've been told, I think I even have a slide later on this, but we'll just dive in now. Like, you know, this is just normal for you because you're stressed or because you're a mom or because you're perimenopausal or you're menopausal or like this is just normal. And so some of these things that might feel like, well, that's just part of my life or that's just part of menopause or that's just part of this. It doesn't necessarily mean that's true. So for example, like needing like lots of caffeine to function or waking up really tired, especially after like a solid night's sleep. Noticing a midday crash between that like 2 to 4 p.m. window, brain fog, anxiety, poor sleep, libido is low, hair thinning, your weight isn't budging, especially in a fat loss phase. When you have like cold hands, fingers, hands, feet, you're constantly having sugar cravings, or you feel like you're working really, really hard and your body's like not responding in the way we would expect. If you've checked one, if you've checked several of these, this is your body wanting to communicate with you. Most of the time, we kind of see this as like these like terrible things our body's doing to us when it's really your body's just giving you clues and signals of saying like, hey, I need help. And this is my way of one, protecting us, two, kind of like trying to talk to us. So your body's trying to communicate with you if any of these things are popping up. Now, before we go too far in, we're going to talk about a couple things with like doctors and stuff like that. And this is never going to feel like anti-doctor or anti-medication or anti HRT, TRT, anti-peptide. I'm not here to do anything. My goal is to, one, get us curious, two, have us making sure we are advocating for ourselves with medicine, with our doctors, with everything. So anything I say is here to help support you with your body and making sure we're not getting yourself overlooked, right? You're not just going like, well, the doctor said, but we have things that we're feeling like, hey, this doesn't feel right. Even if though you said my labs are normal, I'm not okay. What are we gonna do, right? So, our goal is like I said, really advocating for self, really empowering you with some pieces and tools that you can like ask your doctor, take to your doctor. Also, talking with us as your coaches because we can look at things and make sure we're looking at it even with your doctor and we can help you ask better questions too about your specific labs, but also understanding like the root of where things are coming from in your labs. So, so pattern awareness, like we're looking for patterns, trends, things like that over time. So our goal is to just be in a place of empowerment and understanding so that you can make sure that we're taking care of your body and being proactive. So blood work, like I think most people see blood work as more of like, okay, I'm having these symptoms. Now I go get blood work, right? I feel like that's what doctors use it a lot for. And it makes sense, right? Because, hey, I'm doing well. I go in for my annual physical. Things are great. I feel great. And all of a sudden, symptoms pop through. And the symptoms are when we tend to test, right? But why does blood work matter maybe even before you have symptoms? One, usually when we get to that symptom time, our body is already like at a high alert phase. We are no longer being proactive and seeing things maybe like trending in the wrong direction. We are there. We're already in a place where it's like, ooh, we are diabetic, or ooh, we are this. Like, we need to attack this now. Versus, if we can detect issues earlier, we can be proactive and catch them before they become more like urgent, right? Which to me is super important. Had my doctors maybe looked at me before, I might not be on thyroid medication, right? When I was expressing my symptoms and expressing things. Um, that's really frustrating. So it can also make sure we monitor changes over time, right? When we have like a good baseline, we can build from that baseline of like, hey, everything was great and optimal 6 months ago. Now it's not. So we can watch what's happening. We can see what's happening in our lives. Like we can match things up really well too. We can validate symptoms. So if you are noticing symptoms, blood work is a really great way of like validating like you've got things. It can also help us to know if your doctor or whatnot gives you a treatment protocol. We can see, are those interventions working for us? Do we need to shift gears? Do we need to change? Like all of that. It can also show us like deficiencies in minerals, deficiencies in like certain like puzzle pieces throughout our body. And it can help us make better decisions, right? So most people, like I said, wait until the body is screaming for help to get blood work. I truly believe, and this is my personal belief, personal, that having blood work more routinely creates a lot of power in your corner because we can see the little whispers before the body's like in full, like, now we have to do something, versus, hey, we can maybe do some things to keep you optimal and keep you feeling better versus like getting to that urgent critical point. Like I said, your blood work creates like a really nice baseline. So yes, like while one set of labs is helpful, if we're doing like yearly labs or, for me, I have to do mine every 6 months with my thyroid. So it's like I have all of these data points that help us know like how is my body, how is my thyroid, how are my hormones responding, how's my liver, like how are all the things connected working? Because then we can start looking at like answering these things. We can look for patterns and trends, right? What's normal for me? And when I say normal, it's like normal, like trends that I'm like in an optimal range, not just a normal range. And we'll talk about that later. But what's changing? Is anything changing in my lab work? Is anything improving? Is anything getting worse, right? Is anything we've done helped? Is anything we've done like added in or supplementation or this or that, is it not helping, right? Because if we don't track something, right, whatever we're not managing, we can't, like, we just can't measure everything. And so the more we have, the more power is in our corner. One, we can catch things early, but two, we can notice trends and things with our own individual bodies way better, right? Because we can now look over time, which is really powerful. And it's like one of those things I'm like, man, I wish I would have had like this so much earlier with my own self. Like, I wish I would have had blood work like 10 years ago and just been able to track every single like point of everything. It would have just been really lovely to see over time and seeing it just puts a lot of power in our corner when we have more data points, right? More data points always wins. So, the biggest thing that I said earlier, right, is like usually most people wait until their body is like screaming. And usually when the body's screaming, it's like symptoms, right? We have brain fog. Like when my body was screaming with hypothyroid, I like look back and it was like, wow, I had like going back to this list, I had really bad brain fog. Like early, especially like prime work day, brain fog. And then I'd get wired at night. I was like so exhausted, but I'd be like up and I'd be like at night. And then I wouldn't sleep super, like it'd take me a while to get to sleep. I'd sleep pretty sound, but then I'd wake up so exhausted. I have, since I've been a child, like I set my alarm. When my alarm went off, I got up. When right as this was all happening, when my body was screaming and all these symptoms were like, hello, we need help, we need help. Um, I struggled to get out of bed and I've never struggled. Like my alarm goes off, I get up. It was awful. And I had the cold hands and feet. I had the cravings. My body was just not, it was like I had so many, right? So many of these that it was like, help, help, help. And I was asking for help and not getting the support I needed because I was told, hey, you're just a mom. Your husband is deployed. It's just you're stressed. Like that was what I was told when I was trying to get blood work. And that was so frustrating because I was like, this is not normal, right? My body is screaming. And had I been getting blood work earlier, we might have been able to catch some of this earlier before it got too far, before the body was screaming. So I share that because symptoms don't just happen randomly. Your labs don't just all of a sudden change on a dime. Your body is going to follow a certain set, and this slide I'll cover later, but the last thing that appears are your symptoms. So your body goes through all of this craziness. Your blood sugar gets unstable, your bile, your digestion, your absorption all gets compromised. Then your hormones get compromised. Then your nervous system jumps in to protect. Our hormones start adapting, and then the symptoms show up, right? And usually we see the symptoms as our like, oh no, right? But things were happening way before. And this is the power of getting blood work way like before symptoms appear. Like just having it can be really freaking powerful. So like I was saying, symptoms, fatigue, cravings, anxiety, poor sleep, poor libido, really holding on to like inflammation and water retention, bloating, brain fog. These are calls for action. These are already times where your body is like, please help me. Please help me. And usually at this point, we are asking questions. We are wanting help, right? The thing is I don't want us getting here, right? I don't want us having to wait until we feel absolutely miserable to get here because it's the worst. It's the worst. And this is what I was saying earlier. It's like, oh, I've been told this and it hurts. And I'm sure many of you have as well. It's like, oh, well, this is part of getting older, right? Or you're just really stressed, or you're a mom, or that's your labs are normal. Um, which I've also been told. And I'm like, okay, my labs might look normal, but I don't feel normal. This isn't normal. This isn't good. This isn't, I can't keep operating, right? Or I love it's just perimenopause and menopause. Like you just kind of have to deal with it, right? Sometimes, obviously, yes, I'm a mom. Yes, I have stress. Yes, there's, these things that get to be a part of us. Like there's truth to them, right? But what we want to look at is that's usually where the investigation stops versus this plays a role, but there's a whole other part of this story, right? What's happening internally, not just externally. So, as we're, thinking your body, like you've heard me say this now 100 times, but your body's job is to survive, right? It does not care if you want abs, you want to crush performance in the gym, fat loss, like you want to be, your career to be successful, perfect. It doesn't care if your body internally is like at war in a sense. That sounds dramatic. It is. It's fine. We'll go dramatic. Um, it's not going to, it's there to help keep your body alive, not thrive. So when we're thinking about that, like your symptoms, even though they are frustrating, it's your body honestly trying to keep you alive and to survive throughout everything. The symptoms are just like a byproduct of survival. And again, your body trying to just be like, hey, help, save me. Um, Anywho, so we tend to go through this like adaptation loop where your body, we've talked about too, is like your body is this great adapter, right? It's constantly adapting. It is constantly in this place where it will take whatever's happening internally and it will work around it, right? So first we might have like stress. It usually starts with stress. It can also start with like our nutrition. If we're not feeding our body with beautiful foods, that can add stress internally into our body, right? But it starts with stress, externally, internally, stress. Then the body starts kind of compensating, right? Like we get these little compensations. It can be like, oh, I'm exhausted, right? So I'm gonna reach for caffeine, or ooh, I'm feeling anxious, so I'm gonna relax with a glass of wine, or I'm feeling really inflamed, so I gotta diet harder, or I'm feeling really fatigued, so I might like again reach for more caffeine or have like, more throughout the day or poor sleep. We might again be like, oh, I'll just take a nap here or there to try to fix it. The problem is the compensation that we do, right? When the symptoms, we might have little bits pop up, the symptoms show up, and then our body continues to suppress more and more. That makes more stress, and then we dive our body into more and more dysfunction, right? It pushes it to where it's like urgent. More symptoms start popping up. It's not just one thing. Then you start getting the multiples, right? We start noticing more and more things popping through. Um, what we've learned to do, I think, especially as women, and especially as just high achieving women who are just like, I can handle anything, let's go. We've learned to push through, right? We've learned to ignore exhaustion, hunger, work stress. We work through stress, we push through stress, we stress ourselves out, we add more and more to our plate when the body's like, please stop. We sleep less, right? We're handling a lot, we're juggling a lot. A lot of times you are put numero 100 on your list and or last, I mean, it might be 3,000, whatever is the last on your list. That's where you put yourself. And I think we've also been like, I've got to be the one to carry everybody and all the things all the time. And it works for a while until it doesn't, right? And that's where the hard part is over time, our body is like, hey, can't do this anymore. And we're like, but you've always been able to do this, so you should be able to, and you should keep going. And we don't understand why it's not working as it used to. And we get kind of frustrated, right? It's real. Like it's real. Because your body doesn't really care how motivated you are, how much you want fat loss, or how much you want this thing. It cares that it has what it needs to survive, period. Right? So you can override fatigue and stress, recovery, hunger, sleep for weeks, months, and years. But eventually your body's going to be like, okay, no more. Like we can't take this anymore. We can't keep doing this. we'll survive and we'll function like this as long as we can, but there's going to be a breaking point. And that's the hard part for us because it's like, but you've always done it. So the goal isn't that we go, cool, then I have to do less, right? The goal is, hey, I need to be more aware of my body. I need to be more aware of um what I need, right? So I think it's we tend as women to be like, I need to push harder. I need to diet harder. I need to try harder. I need to hit things. I need to do more, right? We just, going back to our list, we handle more. We're like, add it, add it on. We can take it. No, no. It's more in a place of like, wait a minute. What is my body trying to communicate with me right now? What is my body trying to say? What is my body telling me? Because it is wanting to talk to me and communicate and tell me, like, you're not okay. We need help. Help me, help. And the reason we want to start doing that is so we can, obviously, we have the capability to do anything, but we need to build up that capacity with our body, with our brain, with our mind, with our spirit, with everything. And that's why blood work, again, so powerful because your body, if we're not quite sure what it's trying to, the symptoms unfortunately are like now we're already at a crucial point, but in our hearts it's like if we can catch that earlier, we might be able to make some basic foundational changes first. And to me that's always a win before we have to start adding medications and this or that, like, where you're on it for maybe a long time or your whole life. No fun. No fun. Um, I'm going to use a client, and this, I changed her name for everything. But Sarah, she was 42 years old, like super great career, but it was high stress, high demand, go, 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 nonstop, right? She was training 5 days a week. She tracked food. She was doing all the right things. And she did get blood work, and her doctor was like, everything looks great. Yay. Problem is, we were looking at what we were noticing from her, right? The doctor didn't ask her questions about her lifestyle. The question, or didn't ask about, yeah, maybe like what symptoms were popping up, but it ended up being like, well, your labs are normal, so, you're good. And that's where it stopped, right? Versus, this is interesting. Why are your labs normal, but you don't feel normal, right? Because she was exhausted, obviously. She was trying to push through, no sleep, needing caffeine to function, like a lot. Like when I say a lot of caffeine. Her scale wouldn't budge. She had mass anxiety. She was losing her hair. She was poor sleep. Her libido gone, like just not even existent. And her recovery was awful. Like she was just waking up exhausted and she kept just pushing through, pushing through, pushing through. And what was happening was there was like under eating during the day, super high stress, right? Then because we weren't eating all day, we were having blood sugar swings. So her blood sugar was just all over the place. Even though her lab work showed like her blood glucose was fine, everything was great. Her liver, though, in her lab work was showing her bile flow was already blocked and poor sleep. So her blood work was giving us already some clues and indication, hey, things are already starting to get a little wonky even though they're in these like normal ranges. The problem was the doctor was like, you're good. So like, just keep doing what you're doing. When we were looking at it being like, whoa, we're not okay, right? We can function, but we're really not. Like, we're not functioning in a healthy way. We're not functioning where your body is going to be able to go day to day. And I get, and people, you might even be like listening to me being like, Basira, like this is my life. This is what I have to do. And of course, right, we have to work with that. But there's also a piece where our body will shut you down. It will tell you to sit down if you don't listen. And to me, it's like, we gotta listen. We gotta listen. But I think this is one of the big questions that pops up a lot. But why is my doctor telling me my labs are normal, right? When, we're sometimes I'm looking at labs and I'm looking at labs being like, I don't agree with your doctor. There are things that are popping up because what can happen is normal does not mean optimal, right? And when we are talking about optimal levels, that is what we want to be at. Normal is such a wide range. They are taking a huge, massive range of people and from, you know, 20, maybe even earlier than that, to like 90. And they're averaging those, right? And then they're making ranges over a general population and such a widespread population, right? So it's not even like this is good for me and where my body feels good. It's like this is just some range we made based on like a median of all these people. That isn't telling you that your body is in a good place. There are what we would call optimal ranges, and that is where you should be. And I hate sometimes using the word should, but if you're not in the optimal range, your body is already showing signs that we're moving towards symptoms eventually. Like we're already headed in that direction. And if we just, stay there, that's why like you might get one set of lab work done and then you get lab work done 3 years later and all of a sudden it's like you have all these symptoms, all these things, and we could have caught it 3 years ago at those lab work. So they're not individualized to you. They are, this is again, doctors are looking for primarily disease. They're not necessarily looking for like, ooh, it looks like the body is trending downward here. They're not looking really at trends and patterns. I'm not saying all doctors, there are some amazing doctors who are doing that. But a lot of times, because doctors, like, if you think about it, they have like a set appointment window, they've got somebody after, they've got a packed schedule. They're trying to be as efficient and quick as possible. So when that lab work comes up and it says check, you're green or you're normal, they're not necessarily digging deeper. They're not looking for the trends and patterns. They're not looking at your life or lifestyle. They're not even maybe taking into account all the whole like symptoms and everything there. So they are designed, like I said, to almost be like, yep, you have something. Let's get you a medication, or now we're going to start an intervention protocol now when we could have done it earlier. So it's more reactive, I would say, versus proactive. Obviously, like I said, they don't account for your symptoms. They don't account for what you want in life, like performance, work, life, at the gym, all of it. And they also don't account for your goals. So if you have symptoms and you don't feel good, that doesn't mean your lab reading normal is okay. It doesn't mean that you're all good. We don't want to dismiss the symptoms. We don't want to dismiss looking and diving deeper because your lab work, when we look at it, it's like a puzzle piece because your body, all of these symptoms, not symptoms, all of these parts internally in your body, they're interconnected, right? And a lot of times, something up top is going to impact how things move down. And so at the end of the day, when we're looking at it, when your body's trying to communicate with you, we don't want to ignore it. And if your blood work comes back normal, it's okay. And I'll talk about this later with the doctor part, is to ask more questions and to get maybe another opinion. Not because we're trying to be combative, but because we want answers. We want to make sure that we are advocating for ourselves so we can keep you in such a beautiful place, right? Versus having to feel like feeling miserable with hypothyroid was awful. I mean, I didn't lose time, but I felt miserable for so long before I got answers. And that was so frustrating trying to function when it was everything just felt like 20 times harder, 20 times harder to do just literally anything. Even right now, I'm 2 weeks out from my show, and I'm sitting here being like, I don't feel like now, not even close to what I felt like then. That was awful. It was awful. And I don't want anybody to feel like that. So, what blood work is always snapshot in time, and it's a stress response, right? We're getting to see how the body is responding, what's happening internally that we can't quite see externally, right? It's communication symptoms, and it's some all of the trends we can follow time after time after time. And like I said, it's all like putting your labs together, because sometimes doctors will be like, oh, your thyroid. And it's like, actually, it's not your thyroid at all. It's your liver. Your liver is being the bottleneck right now. And that's what we want to look at, because you don't need to get on thyroid medication. We just need to clean up the liver, because that's where the thyroid converts T3 to T or T4 to T3. That's the kind of pieces we want to look at, the whole picture. Because it's not just looking at things individually, like, oh, your iron, oh, this. A lot of times it's like, if the iron is up, why is the iron low, right? What's happening elsewhere in the body? So this goes back to those symptoms, right? I was saying this earlier. Your symptoms aren't happening. Sorry, my food bowl. I keep hitting it as I'm talking with my hands. Um, we're always looking for patterns, right? And we're looking for patterns in our blood work. And I said, like this puzzle that we're putting together. And I don't expect you to put together the puzzle. Um, that's something we can do. Like we've been reading blood work, we're putting together the puzzle. We can help look for what might be happening, especially if your doctor's like, everything looks normal. Or we'll talk about HRT and TRT and peptides and stuff like that too, because there's a reason why some people don't feel good when they add in an HRT or a TRT. When we're like, ooh, this is going to be this miracle that's going to save us. Um, but like I said, your labs don't just magically just switch on a dime. They're slowly like showing us over time what's happening. So when your energy production becomes compromised. And that starts in at the mitochondria. Like, when we were what, I don't know, sixth grade, we're talking about the powerhouse of the cell. We all memorized it, right? But your mitochondria are really powerful, right? Because they literally power all of our cells. And when our mitochondria get weak or they get really stressed, they than our cells, if you think about it, not working as powerfully. We have these stressed out cells in our body. And what happens is things start kind of getting wonky throughout the body. So your blood sugar becomes unstable, typically first. And then you'll notice things like your digestion getting compromised. So you might start noticing bloating, constipation. Um, there's usually with any time digestion, like I said, the liver, the gallbladder, all of these areas, our digestive system is so interconnected, right? Bile flow can start getting impacted. So we don't have the bile our body needs to help break down fats, help absorb nutrients. And then if our gut and our bile flow are all over the place, we're not absorbing and using our food as powerfully as we could be. And so when that happens, stress increases, right, in our body, because it's like, this isn't good. We're not working as optimally. We've got to adapt. We got to try to figure this out. So then the nervous system kicks in, be like, okay, game on. We gotta lock in to keep her alive. Then our hormones adapt, right? And then the symptoms appear. So the symptom is the last thing you're going to notice. The symptom is the last straw. It's not the first call. And I think we've been taught like the symptom is like, this is now we do something. Um, and so, like, for example, you don't need to memorize this ever. These are just examples. So, a lot of times, if someone has like low ferritin, doctors will be like, "Ooh, we just need to throw iron at it," right? Now, the biggest thing is if we have like not just the low ferritin, but we also notice these symptoms, hair loss, your cold hands, cold feet. It means that the iron depletion is probably also now affecting your thyroid, which is now impacting your metabolism, right? Anytime the thyroid slows down, your metabolism slows down to keep you alive and to protect you. So it's not just like, oh, I've just got low iron. It's like, how is the low iron now impacting other areas of my body? Here's another one. We've got fasting, insulin, cravings, and fatigue. Well, this is already showing us if our something's off with our fasting insulin. It's like we're most likely have some blood sugar dysregulation, and that's now impacting not just your energy, but your hormones. And then the liver enzymes per recovery, that means that we probably need something's going on in the liver where we're not um, pushing things through, we're not detoxifying. So there's like a strain, a burden, it's like blocked. And that's causing now metabolic strain on the body again. And if the liver gets impacted, if it stays like that for long enough, it will start impacting the thyroid. Low progesterone, anxiety, poor sleep. It can show that like our HPA axis is off. It can show there's like our luteal phase. And I know for perimenopausal women, this is where not only low progesterone, but usually it means that we have some estrogen dominance, which when we have estrogen dominance can create some chaos. Now, this isn't meaning because people can now start listening to this being like, okay, well, Sierra, now my body just can't do fat loss, right? Or it can't do these things. Yes, your body can still lose fat. Hormones do work through and with, obviously, the body in certain ways. But also, if we're noticing we're bloated all the time and our digestion is off and we're constipated, of course that's going to impact fat loss because we just have stuff sitting in our gut versus if we are going every day, you know, that it's like a whole separate thing. But yeah, it's going to impact what the scale says, right? Doesn't mean we're not moving in the right direction, but it can start causing more chaos down the road, right? It just can. So this isn't to say like, okay, well now I'm just screwed. That's a horrible word, but this is now I'm just at the mercy of my hormones, right? And my body. It's like, no. There's always a way through. And this is the power of, like I said, if we've got the symptoms, then yeah, we probably have to do something. But if we can be proactive, especially with some of the foundational pieces, it's going to just help your blood work look beautiful or you to stay more consistent over time. So it's not, I promise, not the end of the world, but your body's always speaking in patterns. Your symptoms, your lab work, all of it is so interconnected. So it's not just like, oh, you're just low iron. Here's boop. It's like, wait a minute. What else do we need to be thinking about in the body? How is this now impacting this system, this system, this system, this system? Um, and that's like our biggest thing. Our mitochondria creates energy. That is our metabolism. If our metabolism is thriving, we've got our nervous system, like then our hormones respond to whatever environment we have given it internally or externally. And then that's when symptoms appear. So again, that's where like weight gain, fatigue, cold hands, cold feet, mood swings, cravings, all of those things, the energy dips, you are already here. There's been all of this down the pipeline. Um, and the reason this is one of those things you probably can just, I probably didn't need to put this in here, but I find it fascinating. Um, so bear with me. The mitochondria, like I said, the powerhouse, energy is everything, right? It creates everything. And every symptom that we have requires energy, right? So hair growth requires energy. Your thyroid conversion, energy. Detoxification requires energy. Recovery requires energy. Hormone production, guess what? requires energy. Fat loss requires energy. If we don't have good mitochondria, we don't have a good energy creation, right? So that means everything is going to struggle downstream, right? And mitochondria is like the foundational piece. And that's where, like I said, if we are super stressed or super sick or whatnot, our body just keeps creating more of those type of mitochondria. And so we don't want a bunch of like stressed out mitochondria in our body. We want them to be happy and healthy and thriving. Um, so with that, like I said, that's where we'll see all these types of symptoms. And the fun part of this is if mitochondria are your like body's energy factory, their favorite fuel is blood sugar, right? It's glucose. Now, that doesn't mean your body doesn't also use, like mitochondria also use protein and fats, but the quickest one is going to be your blood glucose. So that's why your blood sugar, right? When we talk about blood sugar, that's why balancing out your meals is such a power move because it can keep your energy consistent. It can keep your blood sugar consistent because if we're having this volatile blood sugar up and down and we're feeling real low and exhausted, it makes sense that you're gonna not feel great. Your mitochondria are gonna be like a little tug of war because they're not getting the fuel, quick full fuel that they need to do their job. So, like I said, not anything that you necessarily need to know. I just thought it was, I think it's fascinating. The human body is just so amazing. Like everything. So, like, blood sugar is our delivery system, right? Like, imagine you like driving a car and it's like, full, and then we just go to empty, like almost immediately. Like, we're driving and it was a full tank, and then boom, it's just down, right? And then we're like, oh, I gotta fill it up again. And then boom, it's just down again. We fill it up, right? It's like this, like, the engine's gonna struggle because it's like, what are we doing? It's like whiplash, right? So now imagine, right? If we're not having balanced meals, or I know I did this. This is like pure old Sierra, like a long time ago, but I just have coffee for breakfast. And it would be like, the Starbucks. I'd get a skinny. I get like a skinny, like cinnamon dulce latte. But that's all I'd have. So I wouldn't really have like a breakfast. I wouldn't really eat all morning. I'd maybe have like a small lunch, and then I'd have a huge energy crash right after like midday, like as the 2, 4, 5 p.m. I was like, "Ugh." And then it'd be like huge sugar cravings at night. And then guess what I was doing? I was binging. And no wonder my body just felt like all over the place because my blood sugar was like, what are we doing? That's literally what we're doing. So it's why eating consistently throughout the day and having really beautifully balanced meals is going to help at such a foundational level, right? Like we know this, like, but even with like our lab work and even with things like, pre-diabetes or things like this is one of those like easy, quick changes. Um, and like I said, when everything like with the mitochondria, how they're doing it, when blood sugar is how the fuel is delivered, right? When the delivery is chaotic, it's like all over the place. That means your energy is chaotic, your stress is chaotic, your hormones are chaotic, and then your recovery is also chaotic. So your body has no consistency, no normalcy, and then we wonder why we feel like blech. So with that, it's like it obviously all of these things it impacts like your blood sugar impacts. So if you're feeling inflamed, hunger, your hormones are off, your recovery, you're having cravings, usually the first place we can always, that's why your coach is probably like, let's look at your meals. Not because we're trying to be annoying, but because we're already like, ooh, we're having these symptoms. And yeah, if we don't have blood work, it's like, what can we do at a foundational level? If we've got blood work, cool, we can go places, right? We can start looking at things. We can add in some supplementation if needed. We can look at lifestyle, but we can start looking at, okay, where can we start attacking everything, if that makes sense? Where can we make sure if energy and we're inflamed and we're having these energy dips, food is going to be our first hit, right? So anyway, that's this is just always, you probably are sick of me saying it, but these are signs that your body is in a survival mode. We're in fight or flight mode, and that's not how we want our bodies. So if your digestion, I love when women are like, this is how my digestion always has been. And it's like, that's not normal. You should not be going to the bathroom every other day or 2 days or 3 days. You should be having a bowel movement every day that is complete, that that is um not like you're having to strain. There's signs that something's going on, right? That isn't it when that gets usually for people with like Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism. Guess where it starts? In the liver, in the gut. It didn't start in the thyroid. The thyroid just got the final attack, if that makes sense. The thyroid just was like, we have to adapt to what's happening in this stressed out body to keep you alive, which thank goodness, like, I'm so glad my body's like, cool, we're going to do all this to keep you alive versus just being like, well, just shut her down, shut her down. Um, Cortisol. And cortisol is, I know social media, don't get on social media and think about cortisol. Cortisol is cortisol. We need cortisol. It's important. We need it to survive. The problem is when cortisol is off, right? It's like when I was saying I was like tired all day and then at night I was like wired. That's because my cortisol was literally flipped. Your cortisol should be highest in the morning and should lower as we're going to go to sleep. Sleep disruption, sleep issues, you can't recover. You're just exhausted, tired. Your body's just inflamed. Your hormones, especially perimenopause, can be a wild ride. Menopause can be a wild ride. But a lot of times it's your body adapting and shifting to changes, but also there might be underlying things happening as well. Now, with TRT, HRT, and peptides. A lot of times people do get blood work, and mine, I know my testosterone and estrogen are low, and they have been for many blood works. And my doctor has recommended doing TRT, I think every single time we've done blood work. I haven't quite gone there yet. It's something potentially may do in the future. The big thing that happens is um a lot of times doctors will just, and I think nowadays it's just like, cool, you want HRT? Boom, here you go. You want T, boom, you want a peptide? Boom. But the problem is like I said earlier, if we have some dysfunction happening at the very basic level, so we started like this mitochondria, right? Your mitochondria are creating the energy, your blood sugar's coming in and it's delivering the fuel, and then your nervous system's trying to make you feel good and safe. Your hormones are responding, and then we throw HRT or TRT or a peptide at it, right? What I want you to think about is your hormones are like employees. You have hired them to work for you. Now, we're adding an HRT or TRT or peptides. We want to hire more, and not just more, better employees, right? To just get the company thriving, right? So get me on the HRT. But if the foundation is rocky, right? Literally, if the walls have cracks and if the computers don't work, if the electricity is out and there's no running water, what we've done is we've thrown like all of this, yeah, here's more workers, but the workers have nowhere to work. They don't have the place to do their job. So hiring better employees, right, won't save your body. Adding HRT, and usually when you see that, you'll see that like you don't feel better on HRT. Like you're like, okay, I'm gonna get on this, I'm gonna feel like $1 million. And then you get on it and you're like, I feel awful. I feel worse. I'm bloating like crazy. Um I'm not okay. Usually I would tell you it's probably your gut or liver. Probably. Probably. But the biggest thing is we need to fix the actual building, the cracks, the water, all the things. So when we get our employees in there, they can do the work, right? The problem is a lot of times the doctors jump right to this instead of fixing the foundational pieces, which is why this is why blood work is so cool. And especially if you are on HRT or TRT or thinking about it, get blood work before, get blood work after, because then, like, again, we're going to see patterns and trends. And also, it's going to be one of those things that can help if there are some foundational pieces needed first. You can get your body in a really good place so that when we add the hormone, you feel good. Because then people are like, well, now I feel awful. Do I just get off of it? I thought this was supposed to help me. Now I really wanted to feel better. So there's all those pieces. So, for example, you can literally have two different women, two different environments, right? So you've got like, and these, I know these are extreme examples, so bear with me. You've got like, woman A, she's eating at maintenance, like she's, got nice meals spread throughout the day. She's eating consistently, she's sleeping well, her blood sugar's golden, she's managing her stress as best as possible, recovering well. Boom, she feels incredible, right? But then you have another woman who's maybe under eating, she's inflamed, has been inflamed, she's not sleeping, the blood sugar chaos is happening, she's chronically stressed, gets maybe some results, but they're not what was like promised. Same treatment, right? Same thing. HRT was the only thing given here, different terrain, right? Both women had a different foundation that their bodies were already in that allowed them to get different results and different feelings. That's the worst. Like, same here. Woman A has low progesterone, woman B has low progesterone. Okay, they both take progesterone. Woman A has like 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep, balanced meals, managing stress. Woman B under eating, sleeping 5 hours, but high stress. Who do you think feels better? Right? Who do you think feels better? We know. But that's the piece that sometimes gets missed. And it's not, sometimes I think these like HRT, peptides, TRT can almost be like these miracle things. And I'm not anti any of them. I think they're all have their place and they can be really helpful. It's just making sure that our body's ready for them. And with peptides, I will make one caveat because I know that they are all over social media for us. Um, so if you're on social media, I'm sure you have seen the hype. I'm sure not just social media, you might have friends or colleagues, or you might know some people who are on them. They are not bad. I would just always caution because we don't have a ton of human research. We don't really know. Yes, peptides are all naturally occurring things in the body, amino acids, like we have these. Um, we just don't know the long-term ramifications. And I think there's a lot of promise in them, but also I would not just get peptides from some person's link in bio. Make sure you are talking with a physician or a doctor or someone who can obviously watch and make sure you have the right dose, which I would even say right now, we don't even know the right doses of medications, um, not medications, but of peptides. So it's one of those things where, again, we're kind of playing a little bit of Russian roulette. Like we're playing, let's just test. So it's just not, I'm not saying don't. I would say make sure you're working with a doctor that you can also follow, like I'd say, get blood work before HRT, TRT, peptides. And that way you can follow trends with your body, see how your body's responding, have your doctor be able to make adjustments because even TRT and HRT, um, a lot of times it's going to take the doctor a while to find the right dosage for you. It's not like everybody has the same dose. So just be aware of that too. So that's my only thing about peptides. Like just caution because I know when all the rage on social media is going off. Doesn't mean it's like researched and everything's golden. Like it's, I always am like, this is interesting. This is trendy. Let's maybe like pause for a moment and get curious. That's my game. So anyway, that's what I was saying here. A lot of times, if we don't have all of these pieces, which I've said like now 500 times, but I'm saying them 500 times because obviously this is important, right? It's like, why do some people feel better on hormones and some people don't? I would look at these pieces, and if these pieces are happening, most likely your peptide or your HRT or T are just not going to work as efficiently. They might help, but they might not give you what you were expecting or wanting. And then same thing. It's like you can't put premium fuel into a failing engine and then expect it to just be elite, right? It's like the engine has already been like shutting down, and we're like, if I just give it this amazing fuel, let's go. It's obviously going to just increase stress in the body. Um, so I say that because the more you know, the more you can also, in all of this with blood work, it's like the more we're aware, the more we can be our own advocates. And I think this is probably one of the best things we can do for ourselves. And honestly, to be very real, also really hard. I know I grew up with like doctors know everything and you don't question them. And I can totally get that. But when we're questioning them, I want you to reframe it as I'm not interrogating them in a sense of like, you're wrong and you don't know anything. That's not what I'm doing. I am making sure that I'm looking out for me because as a doctor, right, he's got how or not just he or she might have like a bajillion patients that they see every single day. They're trying to be efficient. They're like, cool, your blood work looks great. If you're not advocating or asking questions, getting curious, we're not doing a full service to self. And the doctor is going to do what they're going to do. So our job is to be in a place of being open to talking, asking questions, and not to be like, you're wrong or you don't know anything, but just to be in the like, I'm looking out for me and I want to make sure I am being proactive, right? Because I personally don't want to be on a medication for the long haul. I don't want to have to be on a supplement for the long haul if I don't need to. Like, yes, there are some supplements that might be really helpful for most of us to be on, like, for our life, right? But at the same time, it's like, do you need to have like a whole medicine box of supplements, right? So, this is a skill, and this is one of those skills that, especially if you get your blood work and you want us to read it, we can read it, right? And we can ask questions. We can look at you and what we know about you and like your lifestyle and sleep and stress and like just all the pieces, right? Any symptoms you might already be having, or maybe you don't have any symptoms, but we can kind of look at you as like a holistic piece plus your labs. So what we can do is start asking questions, or I can also look at it and be like, okay, I'm noticing this. And sometimes if you go to your doctor, like sometimes you'll get your lab work before you like meet with your doctor about your blood work. You can already come in informed and say, hey, this is what we saw in our blood work with my coach. This is I want to know more about what you think and where we're going to go. So that way, you're always asking for a copy of your blood work so you can keep it for record purposes, like I said, to track over time. And we can track over time, which is great. Um, like I said, ask questions with your doctor. This is 100% okay. And honestly, it's 100% necessary to challenge, to get curious with your doctor. It doesn't mean we're trying to be aggressive. It just means that we are trying to understand and take ourselves to the next level and keep our body optimal, right? So I truly believe this is necessary. And like I said, when I was with my thyroid, um, I was in a place where I was challenging the doctor and saying, okay, well, you said you wouldn't pull labs. Why won't you pull labs when I have these symptoms? And their response was like, you're stressed, you're a mom, you're like blah, blah, blah. Your husband's deployed, you've got two young kids, blah, blah, blah. No, no. I've had two young kids and my husband's been deployed like way long ago. When my youngest was 6 weeks old, my husband left for deployment. I had to move out of our house, and move us by myself with my kids and my dogs and everything. I had two under two. No, no, I was fine and I was okay there, but now I'm not. And you think I'm more stressed with kids who can handle things more? No. Um, so I did challenge my doctor and I ended up having to get a second opinion. And that was probably the most powerful thing because had I not like sought out somebody else um to listen to me, and I think I would have been miserable for a lot longer until like probably the doctor was like, fine, we'll just run some blood work. And I don't think they would have ran a full blood panel. I think because my TSH, which is what a lot of doctors will do for the thyroid, was normal. It wasn't my TSH. That TSH is not a good indicator of your thyroid health. My T4 and my T3 were awful. They were awful. So my liver was congested. My T4 was not converting to T3. My metabolism was downregulated. My gut was off, and that was causing a lot of acne. It was causing hair thinning. It was causing the cold hands and cold feet. My body temps were low. Just so many symptoms, right? I was already at the like critical part, and my doctor still wasn't willing to run blood work. So don't just stop because if their doctor says no, it's 100% okay to get a second opinion or a third. It's also 100% okay to get a different doctor. And I don't say that to be ugly or rude or doesn't mean that your doctor is a bad doctor or anything like that. It's going, okay, was I listened to? Do I have what I need to feel like myself? Is there, are they willing to work with me? All these things. Always, always, if you are getting nowhere or you feel like you're kind of stuck, go get a second opinion. It's okay to find a new doctor. It's okay to do those things. I know it can sometimes feel like a little bit of a burden up front because it's like, okay, now I have to change everything and can do this and do that. But that doesn't mean that it's not worth your time. Your health is your greatest investment, right? There's a reason you're here worrying about your health and taking care of you. Yes, this is one of your best investments because your health, your longevity, this is how your body's going to operate from now and then, 5, 10, 15 years, 20, whatever, plus down the road. Get a second opinion, get a different doctor, do the legwork up front. Um, and the other thing is like we get to learn your body. And even like the more you learn your labs, even if you're like, I don't know what these numbers mean, or if this is optimal or normal or whatnot, you can start seeing like, okay, well, this is going down though. What does that mean? Right? We can start seeing like, this is happening. But doctor, what does that mean? So we can start asking better questions, right? Now, that's, I think, the big thing. And I created a document with like the labs and also all of these questions. But really, you don't, this is a lot of questions, right? Because I like have a couple pages of questions here. You don't need to ask all of them, but what you can have is a list of questions that, especially depending on who you are, where you are, what symptoms you're having, or not symptoms, even just if your blood work all looks normal, um, you can start asking better questions to help you either A, understand your body, to make sure that you're not missing anything or your doctor's not missing anything. Um, or if you do have symptoms, if your doctor's like, everything looks so good, that doesn't mean that that's true. So, obviously we can ask like, how does this compare to your previous labs, especially if you've been getting them regularly? Are there any markers trending in a direction that concerns you? If this trend continued for another year, what would we expect to see? Um, can you help me understand the result means in context of my symptoms, right? So they can start maybe looking a little deeper if they haven't. If you're experiencing what I'm experiencing, what would you have investigated next or want to investigate next? What else could explain these symptoms? Could sleep, stress, nutrition be a contributing factor? Um, what story do these labs tell you? What stands out the most? How do we reconcile these symptoms, right? Getting curious, like if my labs are normal, what could still explain how I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, right? Or at what point would these symptoms warrant further investigation? Um, I always say too, if you request blood work and your doctor is not willing to do blood work, I did this. Um, I had them put in my record that I asked for blood work and was denied. They don't want to put that in your record because it can hold them liable. So the military doesn't care. They they don't technically aren't held liable. So the big thing with you though, if you're in the private sector, you can 100% ask them to put like that you requested labs and were not denied. You want that in your record and file for future. Most times they'll run labs. The problem is a lot of times they won't run a full panel on you. They'll just run like a bare bones panel, which honestly, if we're running a bare bones and we're getting the bare bones of what's happening internally in your body, and then, like I said, everything's interconnected. So if we're running the bare bones, do we really have a good snapshot of what's going on? Now, for example, for my thyroid, if my blood work looks really solid and there's nothing really we need to change, we'll just do like a small thyroid panel. That makes sense. Like we don't need to run necessarily a full panel because we're looking at optimal ranges. I'm not looking at normal ranges. So if everything's looking good, I'm feeling good, nothing is on, we know we're going to get blood work in another 6 months. We might look just every 3 months at my thyroid, just pull a small panel. Cool. But we want to make sure we're seeing the whole picture, like what's happening holistically in your body. Because, like I said, there could be this piece that's popping up and already trending. And if we're not tracking it, then we might get to a point where, like, all of a sudden now it's important to go search for it when we could have already been seeing where it was wonky in the first place. So, um, again, trending markers in the wrong direction. If this continued, what would you expect to see? One's about treatment. So, what's the goal of this treatment? How will we know if it's working? Things like that. Obviously, like, what would success look 6 months from now? If this doesn't improve, what would your next steps be? So, like I said, this is all, I'll show you in a second the document, but it's in there. You can read through them. I'm not gonna, I know I can. You probably don't want me to, but you can read through and find the questions that you are kind of thinking, and then you have them right with you, right? You can highlight them, you can write them down. So you're ready to rock and roll. And so same thing with like self-advocacy. Is there anything we're missing? Is there another way to look at this? Um, that's the big thing. So don't think that like if your doctor says no or everything's okay, if you're like something's off, listen to yourself and your body. You know you better than anybody. Your doctor is there to help support you, guide you, and throughout, same with your coaches. And that's what I said. If you have us read your blood work, we can always come at it from our angle, showcase things, share our thoughts and opinions. And you can always talk with your doctor about those too. Or if you want us to help write, like, a protocol, we can do that too. Now, obviously, we can't do prescriptions and stuff like that. I wouldn't want to, but there are some things we can do. Now, I know it's very easy to go to social media to look for answers to maybe symptoms you're having. Don't. Don't. Your body deserves more than a 30 to 60-second clip. Um, a lot of the content on social media is very sensationalized, right? It's very fear-based or very dramatic. Um, there's a lot of right emotion being pulled in. And so there's a lot of supplement hype, like buy my supplement, link in bio, one size fits all. Like if you're struggling with this, you just need this supplement and it'll fix everything. No, you are an N of one. Um, even as a bodybuilder, I don't have the same plan as the girl next to me, right? We have two totally different plans for food, for salt, for nutrition, for cardio, for train. We have totally different plans. Why would I expect a plan for somebody else's body and how their body is working work for mine, right? And just because it worked for them doesn't mean we're aligned. Even if it's like you have the same symptoms, it doesn't mean that that's what it's attacking. So just watch. I know social media can sometimes feel like the place to go. Like you're gonna, or you might follow people and you're like, ah, they just sound so good. Like it makes so much sense. Just don't use that as your place to look for answers. There's your body just deserves better than that. I'll just say that. Um, and here's the unsexy truth that I will share. Um, most of us are looking for the miracle worker, right? Like the miracle supplement, the miracle protocol, the hormone dose, the perfect peptide, the thing that's gonna fix us, right? But you will always hear us say at Queens of Iron, the biggest drivers and movers are gonna be your foundations, right? They seem so basic and unsexy, right? It's nobody if I talked about like sleep and eating balanced meals on social media, people would be like, boring, like you're not interesting. This is too basic. I need something like dramatic. So the reality though is like the basics aren't basic. They're basic because they're foundational. They're necessary for our body to survive at a foundational level with no added support, right? Because think a supplement is exactly what it is supplementary. It's a supplement to your body. It's not necessarily needed. I'm not saying sometimes we do have to add in a supplement because we're deficient, right? But it's a supplement for a reason. The perfect hormone dose, again, if your body is a dumpster fire and there's all this chaos, adding that in, you're just throwing like expensive fuel on a crappy engine and expect it to be like, woo, we're just going to be elite now. Um, in a perfect protocol, like, oh, if I follow that person's protocol, then I will get the results. No, your body is an individual and it needs that's why you have your own set of macros and you have your own set of workouts and you have because you are an individual. So sleep, nourishment, keeping your blood sugar nice and stable, building more muscle, recovering well, managing your stress, and being really consistent with those things do move things forward really well. Now, that being said, can you have deficiencies in your blood work? Yes. Can there be, if you're already having symptoms, these things we still want to support this. Like, please hear, this still needs to be supported, but there might need to be some other interventions too, because now we're in urgent critical zone. Um, and the biggest thing to remind yourself is like your body has been adapting for you for a really long time. It's not against you. I know I've said this probably 100 times. It's not against you. Your body's always fighting for you. Its symptoms are just evidence that your body actually is fighting for you. Like it's trying to keep you living and surviving and doing everything that you're doing. It's actually just adapting to what you're giving it. So your body is your partner. It's working for you. Just know that your symptoms are just your body trying to tell you, like, I need help. And I know they can be frustrating. I know, like, trust me, nobody wants to feel bloated. Nobody wants to have their hair thinning. Nobody wants these things. But it's your body trying to say, we need help, right? And if you're at a place where symptoms are popping, you need blood work, please. Like, please go get blood work because there's a lot more happening internally. If you're not having symptoms, go get blood work anyway. I would say if you if you're able to get like routinely yearly blood work, I highly recommend. I know it can be a little bit of an investment, but I see it as an investment. Like I'm investing to be proactive. I'm investing to take care of my health. Um, like I said, my opinion on the matter. Take that or leave it. Um, our goal is to always take your blood work, right? Plus any symptoms you might be having, hopefully none, but like if you are, we got to take those into account. We're going to take into your habits and your foundations, right? Back to these, just basics. And then potential supplementation if we want or need that to keep your body more in a thriving place than surviving state. Um, and for you, for next steps, and we'll wrap it up here, is instead of being like, what's wrong with me? Because I know that's easy if we are having symptoms, it's more getting us to ask, like, what's my body trying to communicate with me? What am I noticing? What's happening? Even if it feels off, but it's that moment that we can start going, this might be, especially if you're having symptoms, like I said, it's really probably important you start getting blood work done. Like, it's not something I would keep putting off. And even talk to your coach about it because your coach might be able to help support you in, do we need blood work? Do we not need blood work? Um, do we need to maybe clean up these foundations before we go get blood work? You know, some of those things can be really powerful. Now, symptoms are communication. Remind yourself of that. I think I've probably beat the dead horse here, but it's important. Because I think for a while, you know, even with hypothyroid, I was like, this is miserable. I hate it. I don't like feeling like this. But then when I started respecting my body, being like, it's trying to warn me, it's trying to fight for me, it's trying to do this. It's not working against me, it's actually working for me. It's a lot different it's just all it's perspective, right? But it's a powerful perspective because it just reminds you like the body is here for you. It's not trying to make you miserable, even though I know the symptoms aren't great. Um, Patterns will reveal adaptations we're having. So those patterns and trends in our blood work, um, the adaptations reveal where we are spending lots and lots of our energy. Your energy drives everything. Your mitochondria are driving literally everything in your body. Um, we got to support it. Your hormones, your peptides, medications can then do their job. And if you're noticing you are on HRT or TRT and it's just not working, or you're bloating, or you're feeling awful, or feeling worse, or not really feeling much difference at all, I would definitely double check and say like, hey, can we run more blood work? We need to look at what's the fire going on inside because there's something here um going on. Now, with all of that being said, let me see if I can reshare. Haha, yes. Um, I'm gonna drop this. It's not pretty. I was gonna make a really pretty one, but then I was like, this isn't gonna be handy to print off. Most people don't want to probably want to print off all the color, or even if it's black and white, that's a lot of extra ink to waste. But I wanted this to be where you could print it off and take it with you to your doctor, with your doctor, all of that. And the cool part is I've written out kind of like every little panel, the panels that we would want. This would be like a full. When I say a full, sometimes doctors will say a full is different than this. So when I say full, this is what I mean. But you get like a complete blood count, you get a comprehensive metabolic panel. This is usually when doctors will be like, I'll pull blood work. This is what they'll pull. It's bare bones. And what it'll look at is like your red blood cells, your hemoglobin, your hematocrit, your immune cells, any infection patterns, anemia, so like iron, stuff like that. You will probably get like total cholesterol, HDL, LDL, and triglycerides. That can tell us stuff. It's great info. Um, it's not going to tell you everything of what's going on in your body. So we can get like an advanced cardio and metabolic health. So this is where we can actually, and I put like kind of what we're looking at just so for your brain, your doctor doesn't need to know it, but just so you know why we might. want to pull these. This is where we can catch problems earlier. Um, like your hemoglobin A1C is actually 3 months of your blood sugar average. So it's not just taking like a snapshot in time. It's showing you your 3 month average, which is actually really powerful. We get fasting glucose, insulin, um, lipoproteins, and APBO, which is really great for like cardiovascular risk. And then a complete thyroid panel. TSH, a lot of doctors will just be like, we'll run thyroid and they'll just run TSH. That's not telling you how your thyroid is functioning. Don't, do not, especially if you're having symptoms. You want a full thyroid panel. Here it is. Because it lets us know like all of these things, especially like I said, if you are noticing these, check it out. You need the full shebang. Iron, hormone panel for us women, even if you are perimenopausal, menopausal, this can be really powerful. Um, and then cortisol and stress, especially if you are noticing like you've been like for me, this is something I 100% will do post comp because I'm a competitor to make sure like my body is chilled out after competing, right? Making sure our nutrients are all solid and then liver and detox patterns. This would be the whole body and what we would want to look at. Now, there's a couple other ones we could ask for that would give us like even more, but we don't necessarily need all of them. I just find that this is going to give you a really good understanding of like, oh, is it my thyroid or is it actually that my liver is bottlenecking my thyroid? Is it really that I'm also nutrient deficient? Like, what is going on holistically in my body? So, you've got this to ask your doctor. So, you could like literally take it in and say, this is what I want. The, um, like I said, these are like the panels right here in the purple. And then these are like what we would want, like the actual individual markers of these. So you should have kind of all the pieces here. Now, the comprehensive and the complete blood count, I didn't put everything there. That's what doctors will typically run. Now, this next tab, so over here on the side, it says blood panel ask, and then it says questions for your doctor. This is where I put all of those questions. Again, you could print these out. Or if you just want to write them down, right, for your doctor, like look through and find like, okay, what am I needing? Am I needing to get curious? Am I needing to talk about more treatment things? Am I needing to dive a little deeper because I'm feeling off and my doctor's saying things are great? So you have a list of questions. This isn't the end all be all, but it can just be a really good starting place. Like I said, if you talk to your coach, we can always look at it and we can always say, this is the kind of questions I would ask your doctor. This is what we're seeing. This is what we believe. And this is what like you can take to your doctor. Sometimes I've had plenty of clients do that and the doctors agreed with me. I've had some doctors not agree with me. But what I have found is usually when I see things and we don't fix the root, it doesn't matter what we throw at it. If we throw out like a GLP-1 or a tirzepatide or this or that, it's not fixing the root. And so you might kind of feel better, but we're not actually getting you fully better. And so if we don't fix the root, right, it's just going to keep festering. Even if we kind of like throw stuff out and it feels a little bit better, the rest of you is going to just fester. So to me, that's not worth it. Like we're not we're not getting to what's going to actually get us feeling better and keep us feeling better. So hopefully this is super helpful. Probably too much information. But what I want you to be able to do is be like, okay, I really get why this is important. I really understand why um even just like the foundations are so like why we preach what we preach at Queens of Iron and really making sure that you do advocate for yourself because I know it can feel hard to sometimes just be like, well, I don't feel like that. I'm not saying you're lying, but I need help and I want help and I don't want to keep doing this and playing games. Like I want to get better and stay better. So, we are always happy to look at your blood work too, like I said. And if like we're always happy to work with your doctors, we're happy to help write, protocols and things like that too. But the other thing is, we can help you advocate with your doctor or, talk with your coach if you need blood work, talk with your coach if you're like, I am having these symptoms. This isn't normal. That is a really good place to start because if you're already having symptoms, there's probably already something popping in your blood work. Like, I don't doubt it. And that's not to scare you, it's just to empower you of like, we can go get answers before it gets worse, right? So hopefully this was helpful. Um, do let me know, like I say every single time, if I'll come back to the big screen. Um, if there is ever a training you want more on, even if it is more like you want to know more about peptides, like if we just want to do a whole training on peptides or something, we could always go that route. But let me know if there's any training you guys are wanting, because I always want to make sure that we are giving what you want and need and want to learn more about, what's intriguing you, questions you have, stuff like that. So bring it. If not, I'll keep bringing what what we think is great. And I hope you have a beautiful day. We'll see you next time.